Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Chevy John don't come for you? Tell me what you wanna do, what you gonna do.
Florida man standing in his sunroof while driving his Cadillac down I-40.
What you gonna do, what you gonna do when they come for you?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, and I've got my wingman, Culture Casino, with me. And of course, this is the Welcome to Florida show where we have fun, laughing, learning, and cringing.
Sometimes.
Yeah, from the second craziest state in the union. Which reminds me, do you know Hooters filed for bankruptcy?
Yeah, I saw that. I was surprised. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to work that into the 6-minute daily tomorrow, but I don't know how to do that. So,
for folks who don't know, Hooters was founded in Clearwater, Florida. So.
Yeah, well, they had to have something to do when they weren't going to the mothership there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is true. This is very, 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 very true. Well, folks, we have got a packed show for you today. Not today. This evening, we're going to find out some more. And I did this show, I think I did this last year, but I didn't put my family tie into it. We're going to be talking about Fort Mose, which is the first free Black settlement in the Americas, and something I did not know about until I started researching my own family. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Before we get started, 33 of you folks in here so far. Thank you so much. Please do hit that like button if you're on YouTube, and heart the stream if you are over there on X. Let's see who we got in the chat. We have got Snortapoopus. Says, hello, humans and other critters. Hope you're doing well there in Pinellas County. And let's see, we have got DJ Knight in the chat. Good to see you. Says, nice to be here again. Well, nice to have you. Nice to have you, as always. And Tom F., one of my amazing mods, along with Snortapoopus, says, hey, y'all, welcome to Florida Stream. Smack that like button as if you're running from Florida because a gator got you from your hanging loofah. Too funny.
From your hanging loofah.
Mm-hmm. I think some people just do that as a joke now so they can take this.
Maybe. Wouldn't surprise me.
I would. Shoot, that's a funny joke. Let's see, we got Terry Rose in the chat. Hey, he's got that tomato. Throwing that tomato out there. I think that's because of the story we had about the lady who accosted a Burger King worker because they didn't put tomatoes on her sandwich. Whew, that was a long time ago. And let's see, we've got Keely Chow in here. Says, hey, everybody, good morning from Hong Kong. Oh, wow. Oh, one of the places in the world that's on my bucket list to go and visit is Hong Kong. Mainly because of the shopping in Hong Kong. And Scott Westbrook just gifted 5 Reina Creole memberships. Thank you so much, my dear. Here you go. Yes, thank you. And folks, if you got a gifted membership from Scott Westbrook, please do tell him thank you. Channel members, we got to watch this Christopher Reeve Superman documentary. So if you missed that, go check the post on my YouTube page. You'll see the StreamYard link and you can watch it on demand. It was, we had so many tissues. So many tissues to go through with watching that. So make sure you check that out. Let's see who else we got. We have got Fallout Dave who's saying hi to Culture. Good seeing you. And let's see, we have got Chef Nation who says, hey, good Chef. Evening, beautiful people. A good evening to you and to Little Chef there as well. And we got Dead Man, another one of my awesome mods, says, hail from the greatest state in the Union. Always great when the Reina Creole is on topics like this tonight. Well, thank you. It's a topic I am very proud of, and I'm hoping that it will help other people who are trying to put together their family trees. Hey, Juliet is here. Juliet is here. And Lonnie Colcomb, hey, says, hey, everybody, Hooters is in dead cockroach position.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. When it's on its back and not moving, or a little bit moving, but you know. Hey, Dylan says, hey, Lorena, hey, culture.
Hey, Dylan.
Sup, chat. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was playing around with the StreamYard settings, and I'm just like, oh, this one's cool. This one looks very 80s. I think I'm going to keep it. Let's see. That's awkward. Okay, I think we have got everybody. I think I said hello to everyone in the chat. We're going to go ahead and get started with our memes, because you know we got the memes that get you in that Florida state of mind, courtesy of the Welcome to Florida Facebook group. I'm going to nickname this Florida Sawfish
Chips. All right. This is a chicken shark to me.
Yeah, because let's just say if this was a real shark and you put this picture up on social media, you would be getting an inquiry from Florida Fish and Wildlife, because that shark is way too small for you to keep. I'm just saying, not, oh Lord, it's fried baby shark. All right. Sorry, that song stuck in my head.
Baby shark.
Baby shark. Baby shark. Of course, my favorite is Grandma Shark.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh, imagine being stuck in a car and you have to listen to that darn song over and over and over.
I don't have to imagine that nightmare. Thank you.
Although I took a perverse amount of pleasure in just like people would add stuff on the end. Now that's a fish to fry. And yes, fish and chips, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It probably is.
You think it's fish?
I think it's
like they destroyed a piece of cod and reassembled it,
or catfish, and
they have the technology
together. Yeah. Yeah. This is not altogether impossible. I'm just like, just trying to think of what it's composed of.
I mean, somebody took way too much time to do this, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, did they take like a catfish carcass and stuff it with chicken and
that would work.
Throw it together? Yeah, I could kind of see that. When you love fried foods and one of those two. No joke, I would order this.
That's crazy.
I so would. They play it in stairwells in Montreal to get rid of the homeless people. Oh, the baby shark. Hey, CJ, good seeing you. Michael Nellis, how did someone do this? We've been theorizing, and I think they probably got like a catfish carcass, because catfish has skin, it doesn't have scales, and they probably cut it somehow and maybe stuffed it with a chicken. I don't know. Not impossible. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I would not eat this. So
got the gills and everything too.
Yeah, somebody played around with that too much. I would not eat this. Somebody was playing with your food.
Yeah. Yeah, might just be a mold. Yeah, it could be. It could be. I'm like, but yeah, not gonna lie, I'm so twisted. I would order that. I want the fried shark, please. I'll stick
Yeah,
with the fish and chips at Flanagan's Pub. Thank you
you
very,
crazy.
very much. Very much. But yes, that is the kind of weirdness you find in a Welcome to Florida Facebook group. So here we go. We got rednecks, gangsters. Florida is looking at Jacksonville like, what the H's does. This is pretty much what Jacksonville is, honestly. Between the Duval and just, you have to see it.
Yeah,
You just have to see it.
yeah. I don't know. I like Jacksonville.
I like certain parts of Jacksonville.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see. I like Bay Meadows. I like where it's on the St. John River where people like take their boats out to the pier. West side of Jacksonville where my grandparents lived. No, not so much. It is a disgrace how especially one of their Democrat elected Congress critters let that place go to hell in a rocket, because there used to be a lot of manufacturing and there were manufacturing jobs and all that, and now it looks like Afghanistan. Yes, this is accurate. That it is. That it is. How Miami parents throw birthday parties for their 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can vouch for this.
Yeah. You got to stock up.
Yeah, you know.
Those 3-year-olds, man, I'm telling you.
Tell you, they drive the 3-year-olds will drive you to do that. What did Jacksonville do to deserve that? But yeah, this is the thing. Parties. Who's got the booze? This is quite accurate. You've got South Georgia. Mark Daly always says hi from South Georgia, Panhandle. You've got North Florida. That's pretty accurate. South Florida. And North Cuba is deadly accurate. This is Florida. The further north you go, the more southern it gets.
True.
That's kind of how it works here for real. Babies first frat party. There's cold, and then there's Florida colds.
Look,
Yeah.
anything under 80 is sweater weather.
Sweater and puffy jacket and hat and scarf weather.
Yeah.
And it still looks weird. They left out South Ontario. Hey, it's still cold. Yeah, it's kind of in between. It's cold for Florida, for sure. It's cold for Florida. I'm kind of just like, I can still deal with it. I love Florida cold over my cold.
Oh yeah.
Feel better. Let's see. Dadman says you might have to move that South Georgia line up a little. Those Mandarin and town center people, a little Yankee for the North Siders. Put Florida on its side, it looks like a wall hanger. Yeah, I can see that. Facts, culture, casino. Even in Arizona, if the temps drop below 80, sweater weather.
Yeah, you gotta have your hoodie. Gotta have a hoodie at least.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Preferably one with one of your good hoodies. Not your Sunday go to church hoodie.
62 in PCB and the full length park has come out. Yes. I still have my long Michael Kors puffy jacket because I paid a lot for that sucker and I love it. That's like the only cold weather item I kept from all my
Look,
northern clothes.
when your daily temp is 90 plus all the time for 8 months, 9 months, 10 months of the year, anything below 50 is freezing. It's too cold.
This is true.
What kind of a weird person wants it to be that cold?
I don't know, but I don't get it. I don't get it. When I lived in Philly, if the temperature dropped below like 50 degrees, I'm like, I'm not going outside. I am not going outside. CJ said, me. I can't do it. Well, there's one exception. If I go skiing, I don't mind because I don't have to drive in it. So I don't mind going to snow for skiing. I haven't done that in a while. I haven't done that. Panama City Beach. Oh, okay, thank you. Tomorrow
Yeah,
we get
well,
Florida cold.
yeah, that's where you get the Panama City license plate set.
Mm-hmm. Panama City. Isn't that where spring break moved to eventually?
I actually don't know where they moved, but that wouldn't surprise me.
I thought it did.
Lorena, you're usually right about that kind of stuff, so I'm going to defer to you.
The only reason I remember this is because, Redneck Riviera. The only reason I remember that is because when I was in college, they would have, these spring break specials for students. I was in engineering, so for me, spring break meant I got to sleep in and catch up on all the stuff that I didn't understand. But folks were going to Panama Beach. I think MTV was down at Panama Beach. It was pretty darn wild, for real.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I knew a guy who burst out crying because the forecast said it was going to be 60. I get it.
Well,
I get it.
It's kind of cold.
Mm-hmm.
Just
60
saying.
60 is for me. 60 is I get a cup of coffee, I go onto my porch, and I have my blanket and I have a book, and it's great. This is just lovely. But I need a blanket though, because
But you're still a northerner. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. I haven't. My blood hasn't thinned out yet, and the mosquitoes are probably happy about that because I can't go outside without them biting me. I have like 6 mosquito bites from yesterday, and all I did was go to my car.
Oh boy, you're delicious.
Yeah, I got to get that off spray to put on so I smell like Deep Woods off.
There you go.
Hey, Starlina. I good seeing you. And yes, Lonnie, spring break starts this Friday.
That's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
It's going to be, oh God, it's going to be insane. Going to be insane. Let's see. Yes, coffee and a good book. Y'all humans are weak. I admit it. Yes. I totally admit it. Let's see. Fallout Dave says the skeeters love the spicy blood. They will only bite me. Everyone else will be around, and they just swarm after me. And here, they will bite you through your clothes. Ooh. I hate them. One got in my house, and literally I slept with like the covers up to my neck.
Chased you around, trying to get at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They just waited for me. Spring break money for Uber drivers. Oh, heck
That's
yeah.
True.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Special prayer for the Uber drivers because people are going to be nuts. We got types of headaches: migraine, hypertension, stress, and snowbird traffic. That snowbird traffic is insane. Oh my gosh. Driving in the left lane 40 miles an hour. Just staying there. It's so bad. I think they just passed a law or they're about to pass a law to crack down on people doing that in the left lane. I'm sorry. For me, the left lane has always been to pass people faster.
Go zooming by. It's just supposed to.
They're just there putting around. I'm like, what the heck? 100%. Yes. It's nuts. It's nuts. I'm just like, y'all, snowbirds won't be leaving until like May. Hang in there. And this is not really from Publix. It's obviously let's see. We'll just say a reverse engineered job, but it's still funny. We happily welcome all former Winn-Dixie customers to our stores, but please, for the love of God, shower first. I used to go to Winn-Dixie all the time with my grandma. It was a scary place sometimes. Yeah.
Never had that kind of an experience at a Winn-Dixie.
It must have been the Winn-Dixies that I went to on the west side of Jacksonville. Because I'm like, yeah. That's sad that they have to ask you to wash your butt in order to go into the store. I think they made it up because the whole meme is you've got the Publix shoppers and they're all dressed up and everything. And then the ones that look like Karens. No, wait, no, that's Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's has the chicks that look like Karens. Yeah. And then you have Winn-Dixie, which is just gangster. That's like the meme. It's the meme. So Winn-Dixie is kind of like Walmart. Yes, it is a Walmart of supermarkets. All the Piggly Wigglies I've been in have been very nice. I'm just saying. Been to Publix so many times. I remember one of the Winn-Dixies here was no way. Jeremy Heath, my grandpa turned that shade of red every time he flew past the snowbirds. Yeah, I don't blame him. My goodness. Let's see. Didn't Aldi buy one Winn-Dixie? Yes, they did. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, honestly, if I was Aldi, I would just gut the Winn-Dixies and put the Aldi model in there. Might cut down on some folks trying to camp out. Dad Band says, or the Ocean Way 1 in Jacksonville, Reina Creole, cousin of the West Side bathing in shoes optional. See, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Dylan, that's why I corrected myself. Trader Joe's is Karen Haven for real. Let's see. Good deals. Absolutely. Aldi is converting several Winn-Dixies to Aldi in Panama City Beach. Good. I like the Aldi model. I love shopping at Aldi. I can get my stuff and get out. Just got to remember my quarter. Oh, yes, it is, Dylan. Whole paycheck.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the problem with Aldi. They're foreign owned now, right?
I thought they always were.
Well, maybe they always were. I don't know. I just know. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, so now Winn-Dixie's a foreign grocery store. It's weird.
Yeah, kind of weird, but let's see, what did I remember? Because I had to look up the Aldi story because I went to Germany, and when I was in Germany, I got out of the airport and we're driving around. I'm like, is that a freaking Aldi? And they're like, yeah, the Aldi brothers is one of the richest families in Germany, and Aldi Süd is the Aldi in the US, and Aldi Nord in Germany is Trader Joe's because they bought Trader Joe's. So they're both owned by the same company. No, I'm not going to miss Joy Reid. I'm glad her ass got fired.
Hey,
Really?
I made a really nice video about her.
Oh, you did,
Leaving.
huh?
Oh yeah, I'm a real sweetheart when it comes to people. You know, I think she's got something really to celebrate on the way out, and I think maybe the audience does as well. So
I think so. That she's finally freaking gone. Oh my gosh.
yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not saying.
she's a
I'm just
hot
saying.
mess.
True story.
Yes, Lonnie, I do. I do. I had to look it up because one of the hidden secrets, if you go to Aldi, you will get some of the best chocolate ever on the cheap.
Okay.
I mean, really good. You know, like the Ghirardelli blocks, whatever. You can get
Right.
them from Aldi from like $2.15, and
All
they're
right.
so good. They're so delicious, so delicious. Yep, the Albrecht family. Mm-hmm. Yes, they
Wild
do.
stuff.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Yeah, that's a
Mm.
Wendy Williams quote too. All right, folks. So glad we went through the memes. Hope you had a good laugh and everything. Don't show secret, okay? Okay. I won't talk about the chocolate, the
We
Belgian
don't.
chocolate.
Why do I feel like this is like a cocoa thing all of a sudden?
Which one? Cocoa?
We don't talk about the chocolate.
Oh, yeah, no, we don't. We don't.
Mm.
That's like a secret. We don't. Mm-mm.
Okay.
We don't talk about it because we don't want people loading up on it. Tina says I like sea candy sugar free, but it's not cheap. Oh, I bet it's not. Sea's candy is delicious.
That's good.
It's absolutely
I
delicious.
I don't eat a lot of sweets. So
You don't.
no.
I have to be careful. I love sweets. Living in the South, everybody loves sweets. Well, we'll say everybody, but let's just say there's 4 Southern food groups: fat, sugar, grease, and alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the 4. Those are the 4 groups. Those 4 groups for real. Gotta love it. Um. Oh, thank you. These are my blue light glasses. I got them from Gunnar Optics, and these are actually the Tony Stark edition.
They look very nice.
Oh well, thank you. I love them. All right, so let's get into the history part. And thank you so much. There's 102 of you watching between X and YouTube. So thank you so much for being here. We delve into a little bit of history. Have you heard of Fort Mose before, Culture?
I think so. I mean, we've talked about a lot of the different forts, but maybe not.
Well, this particular fort, hey Ron, known as Fort Mose, DJ Knight says she has awesome. Turns out this was actually the first free Black settlement in the Americas. I did not know such a thing ever existed. And I didn't find out about it until I started researching my family's history and happened to stumble on this. Fort Mose today, it environments and stuff like claim the first settlement, but they're actually trying to reconstruct it now. So to put up a replica of what Fort Mose looked like. Fallout Dave says that's super close to where we live and next to our favorite seafood place. Oh, awesome. Awesome. It's literally, I want to say, like about a mile, a little bit of a mile or so northwest of the Spanish fort, the Castillo de San Marcos. And the reason why is that when you had free blacks who lived in Fort Mose. A lot of them were escaped slaves. All they had to do to stay there, the King of Spain said, if you get there and you pledge allegiance to Spain and you convert to Catholicism, you can stay. And they got land and all of that. As a matter of fact, it was such a huge problem that the King of England basically told the King of Spain, you need to stop advertising that you have this free Spanish Florida area, because a lot of their slaves were escaping, because they would hear, because of the trade that would go on, because you had trade that came from the Caribbean. So the main trade route was Cuba to St. Augustine to Charleston, South Carolina, and back. So a lot of sailors who were free would talk about this place. So you had a lot of them escaping, so much so England was like, all right, look, you need to stop. We are losing slaves because you were advertising that they get there and that they're free. Eventually, Spanish king relented, but he was pretty much dragging his feet on it because they loved thumbing their nose at the English. Hey, Ron, how you doing? Thank you so much for that $5 super chat. Let me hook you up here.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss, my wife. Baby, my heart's on fire.
Thank you for the $5 super chat. It's trying to put good out into the universe tonight. God bless you, Lorena and Culture. Well, thank you so much, Ron. God bless you and your family too as well. I appreciate the support. Looking forward to having you on the Spice Lounge on Tuesday.
God bless you, Ron. God bless you.
Amazing. Let's see. Yes, this clip. Thank you, Ron. Oh, I love that one. Darth Plato says, interesting. Spain did not outlaw slavery until 1817. The Spanish Caribbean still had slavery. The reason why slavery got outlawed around 1817 is due to a little thing called the American Revolution. You know, the shot heard round the world. When that happened, you had a lot of former Spanish colonies, and in the Caribbean and South America, they started revolting. That was the age of revolution. Simón Bolívar is the George Washington of Latin America. So it was in their best interests until it wasn't, because at least in the Spanish Caribbean, a lot of colonies like Colombia, they were pushing back, and they wanted to outlaw slavery, but Spain said, I don't freaking think so. And that was, again, one of the reasons for the revolution. So that's what happened. It's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Let's see. More to do with alliance with the UK. Really? That's interesting. Because most of what I've read is that in the Spanish colonies, Spain was not very anxious to outlaw slavery, and they had a lot of friction with their colonies because the colonies were pushing to outlaw slavery, and Spain didn't want to let go until they were forced to let go. But sorry, go ahead, Culture.
No, I was just gonna say that was their Frozen moment. They had to let it go.
Yeah, let it go. Let it go.
Yeah. That was a dumb joke. See, that's why I was fine not saying it.
But yeah, these are the reenactors that they have from Fort Mose. I think they do it every Saturday. They've got those wool Spanish outfits on. And historical wise,
those are super comfy when it's a 90.
oh yeah. Gotta love wool. I mean, I got to touch one that they preserved, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to know what some of y'all smell like after wearing
No
wearing
bueno.
one of those. But because if you were an escaped slave and you got to Spanish Florida, all you do is get there and you pledged your fealty to King Carlos II and converted to Catholicism. They got what's known as a black militia, and Fort Mose was the first outpost that they had because that location they could look out for ships, and if ships showed up, they would just light a signal, and the folks down at the Castillo San Marcos could see it. But there's also a pathway from Fort Mose to the Castillo de San Marcos because you had some Brits in Georgia that basically came down and burned Fort Mose. So folks got out and they had to rebuild it again.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they really did. So to recap, put this up here. More than 300 years ago, courageous Africans escaped from enslavement in British colonies. They fled southward on foot, not just on foot. Some of them went by boat. And what they would do is they would hide out on the sea islands. The sea islands like off of southern South Carolina and Georgia. There's a bunch of the sea islands. If you ever go to Savannah, Georgia, and you drive out there, you'll see these gorgeous, you can see them, they're like dotted all over the place. So those were the sea islands. So some of them escaped, got in boats, some of them waded through swamps to get there, but it was not just by foot. Crossing swamps and dense tropical forests, gators and moccasins and all that. Oh my. Along the way, they sought assistance from natives, thus creating the first underground railroad. The natives most likely being the Timucua Indians. But not all survived. Those who reached St. Augustine were granted asylum by the Spanish government. It's true. It was a unique offer of freedom in exchange for conversion to Catholicism and for men a term of military service. So the first freedom seekers arrived in 1687. This group included 8 men, 2 women, and a 3-year-old nursing child. So by 1738, more than 100 freedom seekers had achieved asylum. In that year, a fortified town named Gracia Real de Santa Teresa de Mose was constructed on St. Augustine's northmost border. Fort Mose became the site of the first free Black community, which is now the United States. So getting back to my family. So I've been working on this project for like about 10 years or so. And the thing that tipped me off about Fort Mose is that Mose is the first name of my great-grandfather. So, I talk about OG Reina Creole, Francis Stanley. Mose Robinson was her husband. There's a Robinson Creek that runs right along Fort Mose. So I saw that and I'm like, okay, maybe it's something, maybe it's not something. I'll put a pin in it and come back to it. Now, I've done DNA testing because people are kind of tight-lipped. Some people don't want to say what's going on, or are embarrassed to talk about what happened, with their family. I would get bits and pieces together, and my grandfather was actually the one who was just like, I really want to know the family history. He passed away not too long after that, but he said, I really want the family history written down, and I know you're the only one who will actually do it. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So finally, when DNA testing became cheap enough, I tested. And when I did, about, I'm going to say 75% of who I tested or who were matches for me were not from the US. They were
Oh,
all
wow.
Spanish Caribbean, Colombia, where else? Colombia, Brazil. I had matches in Portugal. I had matches in Spain. Yes, I had matches in France as well. The UK, of course, that's by default. I was not surprised by
The
that
English, yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not
Yeah.
surprised by the English. But I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well, they had
where's Spain?
the biggest empire of ships at the time. I mean, it had always, revolved between the Spanish and the English at that point in time. So that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting. And Dad Man says, folks, you're in for the treat tonight with this topic. Oh, thank you. Thank you. But what I found out is because most of my family was in the Caribbean ever since Columbus set foot on it, this particular group of people are known as Atlantic Creoles.
Oh, wow.
So not all of them were slaves. Some of them came over as as free peoples, but because there were so many different nationalities in the Caribbean, they were very good at moving around from one society to another. More often than not, they spoke at least 2 or more languages. Not uncommon to know French, English, and Spanish in the Caribbean. So, excuse me. So they even had let's see what they're saying. Starting in the 15th century, Europeans, mainly Portuguese, began to settle in regions of Africa such as Nigeria and Angola. Yes, and I have ties to Nigeria and Angola.
Wow.
DNA matches to them. And of course, this Creole culture just started to happen. You had folks like Juan Garrido, who actually accompanied Cortez to Mexico. And of course, there were
Wow.
lots of others. So this was a group of people who had been in the Caribbean for several centuries. So I'm just like, I don't get it. Why am I DNA matches for people who never left Mexico, never left the Dominican Republic, never left Colombia, never left Puerto Rico, never left Jamaica, never left Barbados, never left Trinidad and Tobago, but I'm related to these people. Never left Cuba, and I'm related to them. So it's just like, what is the deal with what's going on with that? So let's pop this up here. Please don't go cross-eyed. Hang with me. Okay, hang with me. So what I did, when you're doing family research, you always start with the person that you know the most information about. So the person that I knew the most information about was my great grandmother, which Frances Stanley Doan. Well, I did not know her last name was Doan. She was very good at hiding her parentage, because in the South it was much more acceptable to say that her father was Indian or Seminole, rather than the truth that her father was actually a white man from Massachusetts. They
Oh,
were
wow.
they were carpetbaggers. So that was something that I uncovered, because we were related to all these people in Massachusetts. I'm like, I've only been to Massachusetts on vacation. What's the deal with that? So that was one thing. We're just like, what else is she hiding? That's her husband, Mose Robinson. I thought his name was a misspelling for Moses, and then I found out that Mose is actually Moses in Spanish.
Huh.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I find her birth certificate. Only her mother is listed. So her mother is Raphaela Stanley. Actually, her name is Rafaela. The census person didn't hear it right and wrote it down wrong. It wasn't uncommon for census takers to make, to make mistakes, putting down their, putting down names and everything. That's another common thing. When you look at old census records, sometimes people just made, they just made their best guess. And on the census, they're all listed as mulatto on that census. So let me see. Okay, so I had Raphaela Stanley, so I had her, and then looked up some other information because I said the surname was Stanley. So where did that come from? So I find out in some records that there's a Berrien Stanley. And he is my, third great grandfather, Berrien Stanley, born in South Carolina, Cana, Florida. And he married Frances Sanchez. So one thing that I learned from Massachusetts family research.
Well, they got a bunch of massholes there. That's what I know about Massachusetts.
Oh Lord, yes. yes, they do. Dude, I've been there. They do. But one of the things that I noticed about when I did my research for the family in Massachusetts is that they weren't very creative with family names. So you had names like Comfort, Mercy, Resolved. They would just repeat, which made it really frustrating when you're trying to figure out. It's like, how many Mercies do they have in the same family with the same name and the same last name? So I said, okay, that's probably a clue, most likely. So I look up some information about Berrien Stanley, and I find out that his father was a white slave owner. His mother was unknown. He was actually living at the plantation of his uncle, listed on the census as free, which was really interesting. And then I look at the plantation, and then I see a contract written between Berrien Stanley's father, and I forget who he is. There's a lot of men here, and a man named Francis Ramon Manuel Sanchez. So I'm like, all right, let's take a look and see what's going on. I notice, looking at the family that I have here. So where'd he go? So you had Francis Sanchez, and then I look up here. Okay, Francis names, they're not creative, with the names. Francis Palmer Sanchez. So that's Francis Sanchez's father. And then I look up here, and this is the Francis Ramon Francis, I said Roman, but that's not how you say it. Francis Ramon Manuel Sanchez. I find him. And I also find Francesca Young, the daughter of an unidentified woman and a man named Henry Young, who was in the service of His Majesty's Surveyor's Office out of Skidway Island. It's where Savannah is, Skidway Island. But he left there, and when the revolution popped off, he left Savannah and came to Spanish Florida because it was under British control at that particular time. So I'm like, okay, Francis Sanchez. All right. So who's his father? And I look up here, and you've got Don Francisco Xavier Sanchez. Don, of course, a title that was given to him by the King of Spain. This dude was actually charged with bringing word that The revolution had ended, and the British were beat. So he took that news back to Cuba. He was also the biggest slave owner in St. Augustine. And if that wasn't strange enough, he had a common law wife. This was his first wife, common law wife, Maria Beatriz de Pedra, whose mother was unknown, and her father was a French Huguenot named John Stone. So looking at all of this, and I'm looking at the DNA matches, I have DNA matches with the Sanchez family. Given I had DNA matches with Don Francisco's legal wife, Maria Hill, who was white. She came from South Carolina because her father killed a man and escaped to Florida, where they have no extradition laws. Dude, I'm so not kidding. I have the warrant that was issued.
Wow.
For him, because he went and he shot a man, he killed a man, and it wasn't too long after South Carolina became a state. So I'm like, that is nuts. So I already knew that I matched people from Don Francisco and Maria del Carmen Hill. I already knew that. But there's so many matches to other people that what I'm theorizing is that I am related to, I don't know where the heck that went. Daggone it, I lost it. That's okay, I'll get it back. Which is Maria Beatriz de Pedra Stone. Now, she was free. She lived in Charleston, South Carolina. But they had a little thing pop off called the Stono Riots. Stono Rebellion. If you ever look up the Stono Rebellion, and it was one of the biggest slave uprisings that they had in the Americas. Well, at least in the British colonies. It basically resulted in even more draconian black code laws that they had in Charleston, because in Charleston, the population of slaves was way higher than that of white people that were there. And they had that many because they had knowledge on how to raise rice. So rice was basically the gold in the South, especially South Carolina. You notice during the Revolution how much of an absolute pain in the ass South Carolina was. If you go back and look, especially the minutes of the documents from the when the colonies sent their representatives to Philadelphia, meeting about independence, South Carolina was not that cool with rebelling against the crown. I was like, why? Well, the crown pretty much left them alone, because who wants to live in hot ass South Carolina? So they were making money. They did a lot of trade with Cuba. And I think eventually, was it Jefferson? I think it was Jefferson who finally convinced them to do that. But you also have South Carolina to thank for the 2/3 provision in the Constitution, because South Carolina was rich off of slavery, very, very, very rich off of that. So, because the riots popped off, it was not safe for Beatrice to remain in South Carolina. So her father, John Stone, had her sent to St. Augustine, because he had heard, like a lot of other people had, that there was a free black settlement there known as Fort Mose. All they had to do was get her there. So that's where she went. That's where she met Don Francisco Javier Sanchez. She had 8 kids for this dude, all baptized in the Catholic Church. He did not marry her because it was not socially, let's put it this way, it wasn't really socially advancing for him. He could have, but he did not. Instead, he married Maria del Carmen Hill. But the interesting thing was the kids that he had from Maria del Carmen Hill and the kids that he had from Beatrice de Pedro, they all got along. They all got along. They were godparents to each other's kids. It was that typical Spanish Caribbean, or I should say, pretty much in the Caribbean in general. You would have someone who plantation owner, they had like women by one of their wives who was white, or some of them just had women with Creole, just had kids with Creole women. And a lot of them, especially their French fathers, would leave them like money and land, and we're actually doing very well. But this was where I'm like, okay, we're gonna go on from here. So finding that part out about her was very interesting. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm seeing other people saying stuff online that they were actually together. I'm like, okay, well, what's the proof of that? Well, what you have here is Father Hastet's 1786 census of Spanish East Florida. So what they did was, since the Patriots won, Spain got Florida back. Basically, you had to declare if you were staying or you were getting out. They had the Spaniards. They had like the Irish in one part, the English in one part, the Spaniards in one part. So down here, number 15, blow this up. Francisco Sanchez, planter, unmarried, of this city for 40 years. So he'd been living in St. Augustine for 40 years. So up here, because they're going on to the next page, male white 1, male free pardos, that's basically mulatto, Catholics 3, female free parda Catholic 6, because she had 6 daughters and 3 sons. Unfortunately, 2 sons died on the same day. It was some kind of plague that was running through there, and they both died on the same day. So they only had one remaining son. Male Negro slaves not baptized, 27. Female Negro slaves not baptized, 12. Boys and girls slaves ditto, total 63. So this is the interesting and yet uncomfortable thing. You had a lot of free Blacks who did own slaves, and I have the slavery manifest. Maria Beatriz de Pedra, she had her own slaves. Don Francisco had his own slaves. Their children were gifted slaves. So it was a very strange, yet acceptable thing there. And of course, 132. He had the most. He was literally the richest man in town. So finding out all that information, then we go here to, I took this picture, but Fort Mose was a multicultural community of people from West and Central Africa, along with some Native Americans. A lot of my DNA matches are from West and Central Africa. So you had a lot of them that fled there, basically created their own society, which is very, very interesting. I had never heard of Fort Mose until I started reaching my family's history. And I'm like, how come this isn't taught in schools?
It's got to be somewhat uncomfortable, I would imagine. That wouldn't be my only guess. I mean, we're a little bit more accepting now of, the missteps by our family in the past, and I would imagine, couple that with the shame of slavery and other things that are tied to that. I would imagine that's probably why it's not taught in school. It would be it could be very embarrassing, especially in certain parts of the South. And there are still very powerful families in the South that would prefer not to have a lot of this stretched up, to be fair. So at least that would be my takeaway. So I could be wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong. Because the way, and it is a generational thing.
Yeah.
When I found people who were much older, and it's like, hey, guess what? We're DNA matches. It's like they just kind of wanted to explain it away. I don't see how we can be, and some people do get embarrassed about that. And I tell people, it's like history is what history was.
Yeah.
I don't sugarcoat it. You put it out there, and you learn to adjust. And when I've met matches that have been like around my age or younger, they're like, that is freaking cool. How are we related?
See, that's naturally your reaction and my reaction, right? But I just there's some older folks in the South that are
yes.
going to be a little bit torqued off,
Oh.
Well, no, I know everybody down in my last great grandpappy. Well, okay, maybe not everybody. But, yeah, they're just not ready for it. And look, I mean, there's not much you can do about people like that. They're going to be
No, it's not. But what interests me is that this is a story not of victimhood.
Oh no.
And I'm just like, this is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, they used to have this fight around. It's funny you brought up earlier the census. They used to have that fight around the census all the time. There would be multiple people in the household, but they didn't want to count some of the people. And then, of course, you had the fight about the 1/3 or 2/3 people and everything else. And of course, that's kind of embarrassing. So it's all of this, all this mess, going back then. That's the only thing I could speculate about. But I think you'd still have trouble, Lorraine, if you were still on this path. If you hadn't tracked down everybody, I think you'd still find trouble with people just trying to come to grips with perhaps maybe their family isn't exactly what they thought it was,
Oh, I have on several parts. The Sanchez family with, my Sanchez relatives, they're actually very, very, very cool with it. As a matter of fact, I got to ride in an Easter and a Christmas parade, and they don't do it anymore because I think it got too expensive. But they were known as a Los Floridanos society, and the Los Floridanos are descendants of the first Spanish families that arrived in St. Augustine. And in both of those parades, we got to ride in the cart. I got a little bit of a strange looks, but people just, waved and everything. So they were pretty much cool with it, finding that out. As a matter of fact, they were very excited to find that out. Now, I know some folks on my dad's side of the family with DNA testing. They do not want to acknowledge at all that they have Black relatives. I won't say all of them, but the majority of them, to the point where some of them wound up privatizing their DNA results because it showed, it showed that we were related. Because I had I forget which one of my DNA relatives, which one of my cousins said she'd taken a picture and she was like, yeah, we actually have someone who's 100% European that matches with us. And then she checked again and it was gone. And then I went into a couple of genealogy forums to find this particular family. And they're talking about, we heard that, supposedly we have Black relatives and they really shouldn't be, slandering our good name and X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, that's really a shame. Because
but it is that's what the emotion is there. I think is shame. They have shame that somebody stepped out on somebody else and it wasn't part of the family history or whatever else. But just like anything, I mean, you have to approach it at this is our history. These are our people. With the census, it's these are our numbers. Count us all. It's that kind of an approach to things. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little more difficult here in this country right now, but that's kind of what you want to do. And so yeah, I do believe that's the emotion. Anyway, I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You bring up a very excellent point, because for that particular group, they did not want to acknowledge, and it wasn't like it was one family member or two family members. The whole entire, we'll say, like, all of the sons had kids by slave women in that particular family. And I said, well, the difference right now, especially with people like me who are searching things out, we're just like, look, we're not trying to lay blame on anybody. We just want to know who some of these people are, because when you see any listings of slaves, their names are not on them. And as a matter of fact, Black people weren't even counted in the census until 1870.
Yep.
Interesting fact, Mexico didn't count their Afro-Mexicans until about 10 years ago in the census. So I kind of get my hackles up when people are blaming the U.S. heavily for slavery, when I'm just like, you do know 2/3 of enslaved Africans went to the Spanish Caribbean and Latin America, right?
That's
Folks don't want to have
that's an inconvenient truth.
Yeah, that's a very inconvenient truth. And especially when I bring up that when it comes to Puerto Rico, the honest God's truth, they did not get rid of slavery until the U.S. took that island over. So,
wow.
Yeah, it is. I'm fascinated, because I'm just like, you can't point the finger at our country without first pointing the finger at your country, because I have cousins like in Puerto Rico and in Brazil, and blatant racism is there. They tell me all kinds of stuff. They look towards, the United States. It's like, that's where we want our society to get to. But it is, people don't want to talk about it on a whole. It makes people comfortable. I know this one lady, she was just like, well, she's like, well, I'm not letting out information about the slaves my family owned until this country gets better. So I basically said, okay, so yet again, it's bad enough that these people don't have names, but now you don't want to acknowledge their existence. It's not about shaming people. It's about wanting to know. But you get some people who feel like that. But thankfully, at least as far as I'm concerned, I've had several cousins who are more than happy to help me. And I'll actually say this too. Usually the white Southerners are much more willing to see how we are related, as opposed to the mass whole relatives.
Does that surprise you?
No.
Yeah. You think things really are way better in the South than they'd ever been? Do you think that that's an oversimplification? Because I mean, I had yet to encounter it in the South now. I don't know how you'd go about looking for it. I'm sure it exists, but it seems like up north, like you get around Boston or in parts of PA and stuff like that, you're like, whoa, I'm a little taken aback by your attitude here. So, yeah. Am I wrong? I'm sorry. I'm asking questions.
No. You are not wrong. If we go back to the end of the Civil War, because oh my gosh, I'm Frederick Douglass talked about slavery in the North, and slavery in the South, and prejudice in the North. That's what got him in trouble with a lot of New Englanders, mass holes, because it's just like, you can't point the finger at the South.
Yeah.
And you have people who have escaped to the north, and because of the fugitive slave laws, you're turning these people basically back into a life of slavery. It's just like you can't talk about that. You can't talk about the fact that, as much as, again, you point out the South and talk about slavery in the South, you had northern textile mills who were getting imports of raw cotton from the South in order to produce cloth, in order to ship that cloth overseas to Europe. They make money off of that. The money goes to the bankers. The bankers write mortgages, and guess what gets mortgaged? Guess what's get put up for collateral in the South? Slaves are put up as collateral for those mortgages. So a lot of people, it's interesting because I would have like schoolmates in Pennsylvania like, oh, the South is so racist and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, when have you ever been there? Never. The thing with slavery, and this is why I love the film The Song of the South. Okay. When you had the end of the Civil War, for the most part, people wanted to get on with their lives. And if you had this situation where it's a plantation and all the people were on it, and some of them did not want to leave because they had ties with the family. So a lot of them just stayed on and did sharecropping. But most of the people who were causing problems were basically poor white Southerners who did not like the fact that society had changed, and now these people who were supposedly slaves and inferior to them, now in the eyes of the law that they're equal, that caused problems. But as time went on, they just wanted to live with each other. You had poor white people living next to poor black people. My grandfather would tell me stories about that all the time. They watch each other's kids. Yeah. White kids got out of line. It's like, we're going to send you to a black family to straighten your ass out. I mean, that's how things were in the South. I have not experienced quote unquote blatant racism really in the South. If they did, it was kind of covert, but they, kept it under wraps. But in the Northeast, yeah, I've seen a lot of that go on.
Yeah,
So
it's just so strange. It's like, because to me, in growing up where I did, whether it be the West Coast or the desert Southwest or whatever, it was like, it was an absent concept. Of course, born in 1970, we already worked a lot of stuff out, right? And it was some very strange people that happened to have a donkey next to them that were still trying to keep around segregation and things like that. So the donkeys were being donkeys, and they came around finally after 4 times around in 1967. Except we're still fighting it today. It's just called something different. But anyway, so I didn't have to experience that way. And it was really, really interesting. So anytime I'd come across it, when it was blatant, it was a surprise. And when I started traveling around as I became an adult and I was having to do jobs here, there, and everywhere, that's where I encountered it. It was like, wait a minute, hold up, what's happening right now? So it was those experiences that really shocked me out of my boots. And that's why I ask questions, because I just want to make sure my experience is similar.
No,
you making stuff up. So.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, I like when I would go to visit my grandparents in Putnam County or even in Jacksonville, there were white people they'd see, talk to, how you doing, Miss Pearl, what's going on? And they would sit there and just talk. They all knew each other.
Yeah.
It wasn't this cesspool of racism that people thought it was. I mean, this was like in the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of people in the South had switched to voting Republican.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Still have those blue bloods though.
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting because you had prejudice in the North, and then when I went to Europe, that was an interesting experience. I'm in the UK. I'm on the underground, right? So I guess the guy who's like the I don't know, porter, trinket, or whatever, coming through collecting tickets and all that stuff. And I was talking to this Nigerian guy who struck up a conversation. I'm like, I really don't know who you are. I guess he was fascinated by what I was saying. Porter comes by, takes my ticket. He's very, very, very polite to me. But when he talked to the Nigerian guy, he was really nasty.
Ooh.
I'm like,
well,
okay.
How many years ago was that?
This was, I want to say, probably 20 years ago. And
wow.
Porter looked like me. Okay. So
right.
you get it that way. And then I'd run into some Nigerians who basically treated me like I was, the town leper. So I'm like, oh, well, this is interesting.
That's a weird thing.
That's very that I'm like that was a little bit shocking when I ran into that. But yeah, folks, it's like, you can't go by what you see on television. There's lots of things about what happened after the Civil War that people aren't aware of because history is written by the conquerors. So it's a lot more complicated than what people say that it is. And for the most part, people just want to live their lives and not listen to, Karens with blue hair who don't know what gender they are, starting crap just because they have nothing else better to do.
Yeah, I do know. Maybe not as much as you, but I do.
Or do you feel safe? Do you feel safe at the election? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? What?
I voted for that orange dude over there.
I know. They don't want to talk about that. They're like, oh, you voted.
I'm sorry.
You voted for Trump. Like our whole family was just like, yeah, we voted for Trump. And my aunt's looking at us. We're like, you can't say a word, can you? No, you can't, because we make the money now, and we voted Trump.
it's that's that thing. It's that thing. It's like,
it sure is.
It's like when it's somebody else's money, you're happy to spend it. You got to spend your own money. That's a whole other deal.
Totally different. Well, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been over 137 of you guys watching between YouTube and over here on X. If you're watching this on the replay, drop a note in the comments. Let me know if you knew about Fort Mose, didn't know about Fort Mose. I think that whole thing would make an amazing miniseries if they actually did it. So much information there and so many amazing stories for people to check out. Culture, what you got going on? Let folks know about.
Well, I'm taking a break from my night show on Sunday night. So I'm trying to turn over some leaves, some new ones. Hopefully I find some new ones to turn over. But no, I'm just getting ready for tomorrow's show. Tomorrow morning I got the 6 Minute Daily, which is a news program that's completely misnamed now because it goes well over an hour most of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But you do get 6 minutes of straight news and then a whole lot of conversation after that. So it's a lot of fun. And then, of course, just the regular stuff. I'm producing videos every day. Dropped one day before yesterday that was really popular about Rachel Maddow forcing her MSNBC network to have to settle in court for contributing
Rachel Maddow?
Yeah. Well, she and two other major anchors decided to say a falsehood over 30 times, and to the tune of over $30 million they would have been found guilty of. But of course, like all the cowards out there that don't want to ever be on the record for losing a defamation case, settled after the judge said, you got no case, you're gonna lose. So, but anyway, I did a video on that yesterday, and then I did a follow-up because there's for whatever reason MSNBC seems to be having trouble, Lorena. I don't know. There was another lady they got rid of today. And she was such a joy. She was such a joy.
A
joy. Anyway, I did a video on her today. But yeah, no, I've got, oh man, Lorena, I've got this great video that I've got to edit. It's gonna take me 2 days to edit it, but it's about Snow White and how it can trace back the sudden change in the way Snow White is being depicted in the new film, all the way back to late 1930s Germany in the Frankfurt Institute. In fact, that's actually where perhaps the term Volk came from.
Oh, I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Yeah. Anyway, that's that. So thanks for having me. As always, it was wonderful to hear you share. Every time you do one of these, it's like I love going into the history. It's fantastic because you have personal history there. Plus, like everybody gets a chance to learn something about it. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. I'm always happy to share. Happy to share some of this stuff. So it's not always Florida man doing stupid stuff on a show, but then again,
sometimes
the world is to blame for Florida man. Okay. Ask yourself, why does Jacksonville have the Highland Games? Because the Brits bought the Scots over here to go in parts of the state they didn't want to go.
Oh wow.
Yeah. When the Brits took over Florida, they needed someone to go trade with the Indians to go into Indian territory.
Okay.
Scots.
Well, yeah, because they're rugged fellas.
Yep.
All right.
So that's of
course
what they did.
they're also rugged lasses as well. So yeah, makes sense.
Some rough folks, and I love them to death. I can understand a Scottish brogue, but I cannot understand an Irish brogue that saved my life. I'm just like, I'm done. I have no idea. I have no idea what you're saying. But as for your girl, tomorrow at 6:30 p.m., I'm going to be live over at the Magic Kingdom. Hopefully the weather will hold up. We're going to be exploring Adventureland, and I am hoping to show you guys the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. It is a hidden gem. When I was a Commando theme park person, I walked by it. I'm like, nope, don't have time to stop. And then one day I went up there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just freaking amazing. So we're going to have fun in Adventureland, and hopefully on the Jungle Cruise, we'll get a better skipper than the one we had last time, because she was horrible.
Uh-oh.
It was horrible.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
No, not good. And of course, Tuesday, 7:30 p.m., we have the Spice Lounge. Going to be talking about that Disney dumpster fire that keeps flaring up. We're going to talk about that.
Which one?
I know. Exactly. Which one do you want to start with? It's like, I can't. And yes, Captain America Brave New World dropped by 80%. Dang it, I knew it.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to downplay it by reducing the number of days that the actual weekend was instead of the days they were telling us the weekend was. Yeah, all I know, and I'll talk about this in the 6-minute daily tomorrow, and you obviously already know this, but this is performing worse than Ant-Man Quantumania.
I know.
Oof.
And that movie was hard.
As the kids say, oof.
Yeah. Marvel and Disney are not eating well, are they?
Cooked.
As the kids would say.
That's right. I'm trying to use as the kids would say words now. Cooked. They're cooked.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oof.
Well, folks, I so appreciate you being here. Thank you so very much. As usual, we talk, but this show would not be the show that it is without all of you in the chat. So thank you so much for being here. Have a great day, evening, morning, wherever you are, and we will see you next time. Bye.